Oops. Okay. Oh my gosh. Already going backwards. Okay. All right. Hi, everyone. My name is Linda Gosner. I'm the new assistant professor of classical archaeology. So I decided to just give a mishmash of a bunch of different topics that I'm working on so that you get a sense of the sort of themes that I'm working with, and then some of my actual field work, which are all interlinked. So I've just titled this with a bunch of topics that I'm working on: empire, environment, labor, technology, mobility, and economy. And hopefully you'll see how that all comes together. So yes, again, I'm a professor of classical archaeology. I'm also affiliated with the anthropology department, and that's where a lot of the other archaeologists are housed on campus at Tech and in many places. So my work intersects with sort of a lot of major disciplines. I'm a Mediterranean archaeologist at the core, but I work in classics and in history, especially with environmental and social history. So my field is Roman archaeology. I also work on the Iron Age, so the period before the Roman Empire starts. I work primarily in the Western Mediterranean, so Spain, Portugal, and Sardinia are where my active projects are right now. I've previously done work on Egypt, and I have plans to continue working there. So this is just a picture of me in doing field work at one of the mines where I've worked in Southeast Spain. So in terms of my major research questions, I'm interested in the lived experience of empire, especially during the Roman period. So how did Roman conquest impact local communities that inhabited non-urban places? Typically, the focus of classical archaeology has been on urban centers and cities in the Roman Empire. So I study rural and industrial landscapes, places where agriculture was carried out, mining, quarrying, coastal resources were exploited, and mountains. I'm interested in economy, labor, and technology. So questions like how were rural communities, how were they integrated into Mediterranean economies? How did provincial communities contribute to economic growth in the Roman Empire? How was labor organized for these places? And what types of technological advances contributed to production in rural landscapes? Tied in with the topic of labor, I work on mobility and connectivity. So things like human labor migration and mobility in these landscapes, as well as how materials were passed in and out. So how resources were exploited and transferred across the Roman Empire. So connecting geographical landscapes across long distances. And then finally, I'm interested in ancient environments. What impact did large-scale production under the Roman Empire have on local landscapes, on ecologies? How did things like pollution that happened contribute to issues with human health? So those are some of my core research areas that I work in. In terms of geographic spaces, this is the kind of largest extent of the Roman Empire under Hadrian. I've drawn this circle just to show you some of the major areas I work. So right now my focus is primarily in the Iberian Peninsula, and then I work on some of the larger Western Mediterranean islands, especially the Balearics and Sardinia. In terms of the types of techniques that I employ, I'm an active field archaeologist. The stars are just marking some of the places that I've done field work. So currently right now I'm mainly doing archaeological survey. I do archaeological excavation, and then in terms of finds, I work a lot with ceramic analysis. This is a picture of me in Jordan doing survey with a camel, which is a little more exciting than some of the Sardinian landscapes I've been working in. So I thought I'd show you that one. Okay, so I know in the department there are a lot of people who work in Spain, and when you think of Roman archaeology in the Iberian Peninsula, you probably think of places like this. So big temples, theaters, things like aqueducts, and fancy elite houses. And really, I work on none of these things. I like to teach about them, but I work on sort of places where there just really aren't as many big architectural fancy remains, and I'm interested in what was going on in these kind of rural places that typically haven't been of as much interest. So the main project I'm working on right now is a book project about mining in Roman Iberia, tentatively called Mining Matters, Industry, Community, and Empire in Roman Iberia. The Iberian Peninsula is a place where there were a lot of metal resources. And so when people talk about the conquest of Iberia beginning in the late 3rd century under the Romans, metals are often incorporated into this narrative, like a drive to discover more metals and then incorporate them into the Roman economy to be able to produce coins and other infrastructure. So I am interested not in this sort of large scale kind of economic questions, but in how this conquest affected people who are actually involved in mining in these areas. So I'm interested in how mining communities experienced and contributed to this Roman imperial project. So this is, it's a book project, and then I have a lot of, naturally, just lots of kind of sub-projects going on with this. So I'm not going to provide too much detail, but especially since this is a department with a lot of language people, I just wanted to show you some of the materials that I work with. This is a tombstone of a young miner who was 4 years old. So you can see he's got, his name is Quintus Ardalus, it's down there with his age. And you can see he's holding some mining equipment. So I work on things like burials and visual culture. I do a lot of traveling to look at the mining landscapes that are preserved. So this, on the left here is the mines at Três Minas in northern Portugal, a huge large-scale gold mine. This, I guess it's hard to tell that it's a gold mine, but it's a giant hole in the ground. In southern Spain and Portugal, there are a lot of underground mines where the shafts and galleries have been preserved. They're often visible in the sides of 18th and 19th century open pit mines. And so, so I look at landscapes. I'm interested also in daily life. So I look at excavated houses and settlements, most of which are kind of published in bits and pieces. Because I'm interested in labor and technology, I work on things like mining tools and equipment, and tombstones. So this is a really well-preserved basket made out of esparto grass, which is a kind of a group of objects that I've been working on a small article for. And then this is a tombstone. This is one way we can learn a lot about who was performing the labor. This is a tombstone of a slave named Germanus who lived near Rio Tinto, which is outside of Huelva in Spain. And then I because I'm interested in economies, I look at things like coins, and then in the actual mining landscapes, what types of ceramics were imported. I also work with some Greek and Latin written sources that talk about these mines in antiquity.
That's a 2-minute warning. 2 minutes.
Okay, these are the case studies that I work on. You can just see there are 4 major imperial mining districts in Spain, lots of smaller in Portugal, and lots of smaller ones elsewhere, but I've got kind of case studies that looks at these material. I've done a lot of traveling in these areas. And then on the other side, I do active field work. So I've recently started an archaeological project where I can look at some of these phenomena that I'm interested in, but producing my own data rather than working mainly with published stuff. So this is the survey region in West Central Sardinia where I'm working. It has a mining area, an agricultural area, and then some coastal areas where there was fish salting, agriculture, and sort of coastal resource acquisition. And so I'm looking at these phenomena, what happens when Rome conquers this landscape? How does their conquest of this mining territory differ than their strategies that they used for agricultural areas and coastal areas? And so I look at how this played out in the Roman period, and also the subsequent, the previous period in the Iron Age during the Phoenician and Punic colonization of those same territories. And so I just wanted to put the website up if you're interested in learning more about this. This is a project that I, if COVID ends soon, will intend to take students on from Tech. So this is just where we keep a lot of our information. All right, that's all for today.